Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're looking at something really tragic, what happened in Ibadan, Nigeria.
Yeah.
A stampede at a children's holiday event.
Yeah.
Really, really sad. We've got some reporting here from the Premium Times and also the Africa Report to try to help us make sense of it all.
Huh.
What happened, why it happened, maybe what it tells us about some bigger issues.
Yeah, it's really important, I think, to look past just the, immediate heartbreak and think about, what is the context
Mhm.
for something like this to happen. These events are often, kind of symptoms of much larger societal problem.
Right. We want to kind of go deeper than just the headlines.
Yeah.
So to set the scene for everybody, um, this was a Christmas fun fair event
Okay.
put on by the Wings Foundation, an NGO that supports women and girls, and over 5,000 young people had gathered for this event at the Islamic High School in Ibadan. And during the event, the stampede happened, and at least 35 children were killed tragically, with 6 more critically injured.
Wow. Yeah, the sheer number of people is striking.
Mm.
And in the reports that I read, the organizers were offering each child who attended N5,000, which is about $3.20 US,
Wow.
which really speaks to the level of poverty and hardship that many families in Nigeria are facing right now.
Yeah. It makes you think about the impossible choices some of these parents had to make, sending their kids to an event like this that's so crowded in hopes of, a little financial relief. And it's just, it highlights the severity of the situation, the economic situation.
Absolutely. Nigeria is dealing with a cost of living crisis it's just spiraling out of control. Inflation at record highs. Food prices alone have gone up something like over 40% in the last year, so you can imagine.
Wow.
The kind of pressure this puts on families, especially those that are already struggling, it just puts them in incredibly vulnerable positions.
Yeah. And in one of the articles, there's this quote from a parent who lost a child in the stampede. They said, and this is just gut-wrenching, "I shouldn't have come. My child is dead." It's awful to read those words and to imagine that pain and regret.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder, I think, that behind the statistics, the news reports, there are real families
Mm.
whose lives have been shattered by this. And, it's important to keep that human element
Right.
front and center as we think and talk about this event.
Absolutely. And like you said earlier, it's important to look at the bigger picture here. This isn't the first tragedy like this in Nigeria. About a decade ago, there was a stampede, very similar, that happened during a recruitment drive for the Nigerian Immigration Service
Oh, wow.
and also resulted in multiple deaths.
So this raises the question then, have lessons been learned
Right.
from past tragedies? Are there systemic issues around crowd control, safety measures in place, particularly at these large events?
Right. It seems like this is a recurring problem, which is incredibly concerning. The Kogi state governor, while offering his condolences, he also stressed that there needs to be improved safety measures, especially at gatherings like this, which suggests that, there's a growing awareness of the problem,
Okay.
which is good, but clearly more needs to be done.
Right. That, acknowledging it is one thing, but actually taking action.
Yeah.
What concrete steps are being taken? Are there specific crowd management strategies? Maybe things that have been proven effective in other countries,
Yeah.
other events that Nigeria could be looking at to implement?
Right. We need to go beyond acknowledging the issue and start implementing, real tangible solutions.
Yeah.
What are some of the, best practices for crowd management, and how can they be tailored to, specific events that might be going on in Nigeria?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of research on this. Clear communication with attendees both before and during an event is really important. Well-marked exits, designated gathering areas, trained personnel on site to manage the flow of people. These are all things that can help. And then also, of course, having a robust emergency response plan in place. Knowing how to respond quickly and effectively if something does happen.
So it sounds like having those protocols in place could make a huge difference, but are those measures enough when you're dealing with extreme poverty and desperation,
Right.
like what we're seeing in Nigeria?
hmm
Would these strategies still be effective when, people are driven by such urgent needs?
That's a really important question, and it speaks to the kind of the complex interplay of factors here. Addressing those underlying socioeconomic issues, that's crucial, of course.
Right.
But so is ensuring that, those immediate safety measures are strong enough, robust enough to mitigate risks, no matter what the situation.
So we're talking about kind of this two-pronged approach,
Yeah.
tackling those root causes like poverty and inequality,
Mm-hmm.
while at the same time implementing effective safety measures
Yeah,
to prevent these tragedies from happening in the first place.
exactly. It's about addressing both the immediate needs
Hmm.
and those long-term systemic issues.
And understanding the role of NGOs like Wings Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
I think is crucial here.
Yeah.
Where do they fit in the wider landscape of all these different organizations working in Nigeria?
Yeah, and it's important to understand that the NGO sector in Nigeria, it's complex. There are a lot of organizations working on a variety of issues. They often face challenges, though. Funding limitations, bureaucratic hurdles, even safety concerns in certain regions. So it can be tough.
So navigating that landscape and understanding all the dynamics at play
Right.
between these NGOs, government agencies, and the communities they serve is crucial to finding effective solutions.
Oh, absolutely. It requires a lot of collaboration, transparency, and a shared commitment, I think, to really create lasting change.
Well, we've covered a lot already, but we're just getting started.
Yeah. It's a complex situation for sure, and it actually brings to mind, the cancellation of a major event in Ebony State.
Mm,
It was a birthday celebration being planned for Governor Kinde, but, because of this tragedy in Ibadan, it was canceled.
right. It seems like this event has really had an impact across Nigeria, prompting reflection and even action,
Yeah.
beyond just Oyo State. So
Yeah.
makes you wonder, what are the ripple effects of something like this? How could this change how events are organized and
Really, yeah.
managed throughout the country?
I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, this tragedy has really shown a light, I think, on some, systemic vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And it could be a real catalyst for, broader changes
Right.
in safety regulations and emergency preparedness, nationwide.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking that it takes something so horrible
Right.
to happen to spark those changes, but
Yeah,
hopefully some good can come out of this in the long run.
I agree. I think it's crucial to remember that tragedies like this are preventable.
Mhm.
We have the knowledge, we
Right.
have the tools to create safer environments.
Yeah.
And it's imperative that we actually use them.
You mentioned earlier the need to address the underlying socioeconomic issues that are contributing to these situations.
Right.
Could you talk about that a bit more? What specific policies or initiatives, could be implemented to help alleviate poverty and create more opportunities for Nigerians?
It's a big question,
Yeah.
but there are some, key areas I think we could point to.
Right.
Investing in education and job training programs, I think, is really essential to equip people
Right.
with the skills they need
Yeah.
to succeed in, a modern economy.
Yeah.
Likewise, strengthening those social safety nets.
Okay.
Things like unemployment benefits and food assistance programs.
Right.
These can provide a crucial lifeline, I think, to
Yeah.
people who are facing hardship.
Yeah. And then, of course, tackling corruption, promoting good governance are critical to ensuring that resources are used effectively
Right.
and that everyone has a fair chance to thrive.
So it sounds like what's needed is a multifaceted approach, one that
Yeah.
addresses the immediate needs of the population,
Mhm.
but also the structural issues
Right.
that are
Yeah.
perpetuating inequality and poverty.
Exactly. There's no quick fix, but with sustained effort and a commitment
Yeah.
to addressing these root issues, progress is definitely possible.
I think it's easy to get caught up in the statistics and, policy discussions, but
Right.
we're talking about real people's lives here.
Yeah.
So what would you say to our listeners, who are hearing this and feeling maybe a little bit overwhelmed by the scale of the problem? What can individuals do?
That's a great question, and one I think that a lot of people struggle with. It's important to remember that even small actions can have a ripple effect.
Supporting organizations that are working to alleviate poverty in Nigeria,
Right.
raising awareness about these issues within your own community,
Yeah.
advocating for policy changes that promote social justice.
Hmm.
These are all meaningful steps.
Yeah. I love that idea of, these ripple effects.
Yeah.
Even if it's something that feels small, it can contribute to a larger wave of change. And,
Exactly.
maybe by each of us
Yeah.
doing what we can, we can start to shift the tide.
I think that's a powerful way to look at it. Individual actions
Yeah.
multiplied across a community can create a force that's really hard to ignore.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of, just having those informed conversations with your
Exactly.
friends,
Yeah.
your family, colleagues.
Yeah.
about these issues,
Yeah.
raising awareness,
Yeah.
sparking dialogue
Yeah.
can plant seeds that lead to, greater understanding and action down the road.
We've talked a lot about the challenges
Yeah.
and the potential solutions.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, for you personally, having dived into this story,
Right.
what has stuck with you the most? What are your takeaways?
I think what's resonated most with me is the resilience of the human spirit. Even in the midst of such, devastating loss, we see communities coming together
Mhm.
to support one another,
Yeah.
offering comfort,
Yeah.
aid, and a shared sense of,
Okay.
grief and hope.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's that fundamental human capacity for
Right.
empathy and connection.
Yeah.
And I think that can help us, get through these tragedies.
It's a beautiful sentiment, and it's something that often gets overlooked,
Yeah.
in news coverage of
Yeah.
events like this.
Yeah.
It's so important to highlight those stories of strength and resilience
Yeah.
alongside the loss and the hardship.
I agree. It's about finding that balance,
Yeah.
acknowledging the gravity of the situation, but also recognizing that inherent strength and compassion
Right.
that exists, within those communities.
Yeah, this has been a really insightful conversation.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to continue exploring these issues.
Yeah.
We'll be back after a short break to wrap up our deep dive
Okay.
and offer some final thoughts for everyone listening. We've covered a lot in this deep dive, from the heartbreaking details of the Stampede
Right.
to the really, complex web of socioeconomic factors
Yeah.
that are at play here. And we've talked about, potential solutions, both those immediate safety measures
Right.
and then those longer-term policy changes.
Yeah. And I think, amidst all of that, it's been good to touch on that, that resilience and compassion that emerges even in the face of this kind of tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that, even though we're discussing these difficult issues, these often, systemic issues, there's always hope to be found in that strength of human connection.
That's such an important point and something that I hope you listening,
Right.
take away from this conversation.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel powerless
Mm.
when you're faced with these large-scale problems,
Right.
poverty, inequality. But as we've discussed, even small actions
Yeah.
can contribute to meaningful change.
Absolutely. Don't underestimate the power of staying informed, engaging in these, thoughtful conversations, and supporting those organizations that are working on the ground,
Right.
To address these challenges.
Yeah.
Every little bit of awareness raised, every donation made, every conversation started, it all contributes,
Yeah.
to that ripple effect.
It's about shifting our mindset from, feeling overwhelmed to feeling empowered.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we each have a role to play, no matter how small,
Exactly.
in creating a better world.
And it's about holding on to hope.
Yeah.
Hope that things can change, hope that these systems can be improved, that tragedies like this can be prevented in the future,
Yeah.
That hope coupled with action is what drives progress.
This deep dive has been quite a journey.
Yeah.
Both emotionally and intellectually. We've really, delved into the depths of a tragedy, explored those systemic issues,
Yeah.
and hopefully emerged with a sense of hope and a call to action.
But I hope this conversation has challenged you to think critically about these issues,
Yeah.
to empathize with those who have been affected, and to consider how you can contribute to a more just and equitable world.
We believe that, knowledge is power.
Right.
And by shedding light on these, difficult topics, we can empower ourselves and others to work towards a brighter future.
Remember, change starts with each of us. It starts with awareness, compassion, a willingness to take action, however small.
Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We encourage you to continue exploring these issues, engage in those meaningful conversations,
Absolutely.
and never lose hope in the power of collective action.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep learning
Keep questioning.
and keep striving for a better world.